Hello and welcome to Global News Factory. I am your host Vikrant. MI6, the fancy office, the suits, the secrets, all of it. But behind all that drama, MI6 was likely getting played by the Russians for years. One of their own, a senior officer, was suspected of being a Russian mole. But MI6 did not even realize that. It was the Americans, the CIA, that alerted them, that sent a message, hey guys, you have got a leak. MI6 panicked, but instead of fixing the mess, they passed the problem to MI5, the agency that handles domestic threats. So now, one UK spy agency was spying on another. Awkward? You have no idea. MI5 launched something called Operation Wedlock. Sounds like a marriage, but this was pure chaos. A full-blown manhunt. They sent 35 officers, surveillance experts, tech guys, desk officers, chasing the suspected mole across the world. One trip even took them to the Middle East. Secret mission, no permission from the local government. It was an illegal, risky and totally insane mission. If they got caught, the official plan was you are on their own. And back in London, they set up base in Wandsworth, close to MI6 headquarters. They were set up to look like a fake security company. Then they planted bugs inside the suspect's house, put cameras everywhere, even inside a tissue box in a parked car. Yes, so they were so desperate to catch the suspect red-handed. And they watched him for years at home, at work, while traveling, followed him to Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. They were sure he was sending secrets to Russia. But guess what? After 20 years, 2 decades, they found nothing. No proof, just suspicious behavior that had nothing to do with spying. This was their conclusion. The suspect, eventually left MI6. MI5 still did not know if he was guilty or not. 2 other people in London were also suspected of helping him. Again, no proof. Everything about this operation was dramatic. Agents were briefed inside churches to avoid being heard. Some were even told it was a training exercise, and they realized later they were chasing a possible Russian spy. And the best part, this whole thing cost a fortune. MI5 called it one of their most serious, most expensive, and longest investigations ever. In short, the CIA warned them, MI6 freaked out, MI5 ran in circles, the mole, if he existed, got away. Or worse, he is still sitting somewhere inside UK, sipping tea and laughing quietly. So, who won? Maybe Russia. No loud announcements, no flashy moves, just pure patience. MI6 outclassed, outwitted, outsmarted. It's an interesting story. You can read this on Guardian. It is their exclusive, so please go and do read that. We move on to our next story. It is from Estonia. Estonia's defense minister Hanno Pevkur just dropped a nuclear bombshell. Well, not literally, but almost. He said Estonia is all set to host NATO jets armed with nukes. You heard that right. The pint-sized Baltic country is now flirting with radioactive fire. And why? Because the UK is buying new F-35 fighter jets that can carry nuclear bombs. The BBC says it is in response to a growing nuclear threat. Yes, the mythical threat. Let's decode this nonsense. The question is Russia about to nuke Estonia? This is a funny question. Estonia is tiny. Russia does not need a nuke to deal with Estonia in any hypothetical war scenario. A couple of tanks, A firm stare, or maybe some tourists would do the job. Now look at Russia's actual nuclear policy. On November 19th last year, Moscow updated its doctrine. It says Russia can use nukes only if it is attacked, even conventionally, by a non-nuclear state backed by a nuclear one. Now, this is the key part. The translation is, if Estonia decides to poke the bear with help from the UK or the US or the NATO, then maybe, just maybe, nukes are on the table. But otherwise, not a chance. So if Estonia's politicians are suddenly talking about welcoming nuclear-armed NATO jets, the only thing being defended here is someone's fantasy from a Cold War video game. So what does this actually mean? This is not defense, this is escalation. Now Russia has said they see this move as a threat to their national security, which is true, by the way. Deploying nuclear jets just 150 kilometers away from St. Petersburg is not exactly what you call peacekeeping. This is provocation wrapped in shiny NATO paper. It is like waving a gun in someone's face and then acting shocked when they raise their own. So what is the end game here? Estonia wants to be the good pupil of NATO. But good pupils do not invite nukes into classroom when no one asked for them. And here is the truth. If a real war breaks out, Estonia becomes ground zero. The front line, the battlefield, the fallout zone. Not London, not Washington, not Brussels. So who exactly is this move protecting? Because from the looks of it, it is not the Estonian people. And moving on, $1 billion breakup is brewing. And no, it is not celebrity gossip, it is NATO. It is messy. Turns out the honeymoon between Europe and the US arms industry is heading for an ugly divorce. Why? Because NATO is pushing spend 5% of your GDP on defense policy in the next decade, and everyone is already fighting over where that cash is going. See, Trump wanted Europe to spend big on American weapons. But European leaders, well, they have their own military industrial cronies to feed. And let's face it, Brussels may follow Washington's orders, but it does not want to write checks for Lockheed Martin forever. Even Bloomberg is reporting how European leaders are suddenly concerned about becoming too dependent on the US arms industry, especially under Trump, who one day might love NATO and the next day threaten to annex Allied territory if his sandwich arrives cold. Buying more American weapons is becoming a hard sell at home, and why would not it be? Nobody wants to spend their taxpayers' euros, so Trump can tweet, "You are welcome, Europe, now buy more F-35s." French President Macron, always the philosopher warrior, wants Europe to build its own defense systems. He has been begging for military independence like a teenager asking for the car keys. But the problem? Europe has been slacking for decades. They do not have the factories, tech, or manpower to mass produce tanks, missiles, or drones at scale. They would struggle to make a working Nerf blaster on their own, let alone defend against Russia. Even Canada, usually the quiet kid in class, is getting rebellious. Prime Minister Mark Carney, yes, the central bank turned PM, is now questioning the F-35 fighter jet deal and eyeing Swedish jets instead. His words: "We should no longer send 3/4 of our defense capital spending to America." Translation: we are tired of being a glorified American arms outlet. There are real challenges. Europe wants to ditch America's military industrial complex, the MI6, but like someone stuck in a bad marriage with no job and no apartment, they have got nowhere else to go. Until European countries build their own defense factories and spend consistently on R&D, they will be stuck buying overpriced Pentagon gear and pretending it is partnership. This is not a transatlantic alliance anymore, it is a forced marriage held together by bombs, debt, and awkward press photos. And the divorce lawyers, also known as the military contractors, are already counting their money. That's all for this episode. Thank you very much for staying with me. You're watching Global News Factory.